Oh, it wasn't, okay.
It's hoping for Laurie
It
to.
will be now. Councillor Russell, yeah.
In the interest of fairness and good work, I mean, we just had that wonderful CID thing that happened a couple of months ago. And I think I just make a suggestion that for all the committees that served this year, I think letters to thank you for a good year. Through you, for the mayor.
Okay.
Wouldn't hurt at all. Well, you were really good, probably. I mean, they were just
Yeah, we could
report.
Deputy Mayor Dec?
Yeah, I wanted to take the opportunity here during the larger council meeting to just commend you for the professionalism of your report and thorough approach you took, and I think that we have to be really impressed and pleased that we have all these resources within our own municipality to be able to bring back this type of information to council and draw on that. So I think you've used your resources really well, and I just commend all of you for your excellent leadership on behalf of the council too.
Okay. Councillor Scott?
I think that the other thing that Councillor Underwood didn't say is that we had a lot of fun doing this. There was a lot of hard work and a lot of people out doing different things. But overall, we had fun because it was interesting to watch the dynamics of how it played out and where the information came from, and how much people knew and how much we were brought in. Having had all of the groups from Sarnia come in and talk to us, gave people the feeling of understanding what was available out there. Some knew some of it, some didn't know, pieces of it. So I think that overall the group was pretty amazing, and it was a great time to work with them, and I really appreciate all their help and their effort. And my co-partner was pretty amazing himself, so it was a great time.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Carried. Thank you. It's 7 o'clock, so we'll start our development charges meeting. I would ask for a motion if you're ready to go. Ask for a motion to adjourn our council meeting and open a public meeting. Councillor Cook, Councillor Scott. All in favor of that? Carried. Welcome. Jamie, is it?
Jamie, yes.
You're filling in for Gary tonight?
I am filling in for Scanlon.
Yes.
He's come down ill. So thank you for having me tonight, Mr. Mayor, members of council, members of the public. We're here tonight to have our public meeting on the development charges background study and bylaw. As a requirement of the Act, the 1997 Development Charges Act, we are required to hold a public meeting to discuss the background study and the bylaw, the proposed bylaw. So I'm going to walk through in the next 20 minutes, 30 minutes, the overview of the key findings of the study. I'll just start off with the study process. Some of the key highlights of the study process. We started off with policy review and discussions with staff back in the early fall of this year regarding capital needs, future growth projections for Lansing Shores. We've prepared a detailed growth projection analysis as a key component of the charge. It looks at required need for over a 10-year period for soft services, a 20-year period for hard services, such as roads, fire. We also looked at an ultimate build-out of the urban areas of each of your respective settlement areas that have water and sewer services or water services. So that was at the full build-out of the envelope of the land. I understand there was a council review back in November to discuss some of the key issues and have a discussion on some of the particular matters dealing with the background study and bylaw on November the 8th. We're here tonight, obviously, to hold our public meeting, and then once we have our public meeting, council can consider the adoption of the bylaw.
Okay.
So just to give you a bit of a background on the purposes of development charges, the primary purpose is to recover the capital costs associated with the residential and non-residential growth in the municipality. So we're only looking at growth-related capital here. And we're not talking about the replacement of existing infrastructure or operating costs. We're talking about growth-related capital. The capital costs are in addition to what costs would normally be constructed as part of a subdivision. For example, internal roads, sewers, water mains, sidewalks, and streetlights. Those would typically be the responsibility of the local developer. So these are the costs above and beyond what would be considered a local service. Municipalities are empowered to impose these charges via the Development Charges Act of 1997. There are a number of limitations that are set out in the Act that do provide several deductions for a number of items that aren't eligible for development charges. That includes parkland acquisition, municipal halls, tourism, arts, culture facilities, museums, solid waste services, hospitals, vehicles and equipment with an average life of less than 7 years, and computer equipment. And you probably heard from Gary, this is thanks basically to the update of the Act during the Harris years, where they essentially knocked off a number of items that couldn't be considered eligible. So there are a number of essentially deductions that do have to get factored in to the overall calculation. The next few slides just walk through some of the an overview of some of the key DCA steps. Section 5.1 of the Act, a key section that I'm had a key role in is the development of the growth forecast. So the Act says that you have to identify the amount, type, and location of growth. Once you've identified that growth, you need to identify the servicing needs to accommodate growth, and then identify the capital cost to provide services to meet those needs. There's additional deductions that are set out in the Act. Those include grants, subsidies, and other contributions. Benefits to existing development. So if we're going to say expand a fire hall and we're looking to double the square footage of the fire hall, well, only the additional added capacity can be actually charged to the DC. So the existing fire hall that's being replaced, for example, would be considered an existing benefit to the local community. The Act also requires us to identify the 10-year historic average of service levels for all services except for water and sewer. Those are governed by other legislation, the Ministry of Environment. But all the other services were held to a 10-year historic average of service. So we can't exceed that historic average going forward as part of our, we can exceed it, but we can't charge development charges beyond that historic average over that 10-year period. We also have to adjust for our DC reserve funds where they're applicable. From there, we would then, we net the costs, the net costs have been allocated between residential and non-residential. And then the net costs are divided by the growth to provide the overall DC charge. So we're looking at capital costs as the numerator in the calculation, the growth is the denominator, the two are the growth, the capital is divided into the growth to ultimately calculate the charge, whether it's on a residential unit basis or for non-resident on a per square foot basis. The Act also identifies a number of exemptions. Some of them are mandatory, and you have the ability to also impose additional exemptions at your own through your own decision. The mandatory exemptions include industrial buildings expansion. You may expand 50% of an existing building as long as the building's attached, so you can increase the floor space by 50% without imposing a development charge on that expansion. You may add 2 apartments for a single detached unit as long as the size of the home doesn't double. You can add 1 additional unit in a medium and high density building. And upper and lower tier governments and school boards are also exempt. There are a number of discretionary exemptions that are identified. Some of them that you can impose. These can reduce in part or whole the DC for types of development or classes of development, such as industrial or churches, for example. You can phase in development charges over time, which we're proposing to do here tonight. There's also potential to have impose redevelopment credits to recognize what is being replaced on site. Now, it's not specific in the Act, but has been provided in case law. The existing DC exemptions that are in place in your existing bylaw and carried forward in your proposed bylaw are places of worship or cemetery burial grounds, a public hospital, non-residential farm buildings, lands used by a university or college, temporary buildings or structures less than 1 year, a building structure normally incidental or subordinate in purpose or both and exclusively devoted to residential use, a board of education, and the municipality of Lambton Shores or local board or commission thereof. I mentioned before that we are looking at the cost above and beyond what we consider